our Bushfire Recovery Online Community Forum, the first one we've had for this year. And of course, it's all brought about by the guidelines of the COVID-19 issues, which we have been getting used to for quite some time. And I thank you for all joining us for this evening for this forum. The purpose of the forum is to share with you how we can access support and funding to repair fences that are damaged or destroyed by bushfires. Oh, that's a good one. We have with us tonight representatives from agents who will be providing updates on requirements and current funding programs. These panellists will be available to answer your questions, and after I finish, we can inform you how that can be done. Thank you for those that have sent questions ahead of the time of this webinar. We will respond to those at the end after hearing updates from our panellists. I encourage you to use the question and answer section during this forum to ask additional questions as they arise. If you are not able to answer a question, if we're not able to answer a question, we will try and get back to you as soon as we can with the information from our attendees and from our experts that you'll be hearing from later. This discussion is a safe place to ask questions and to share information. I encourage everyone to be kind, respectful at the meeting and to be open. The forum will be recorded for viewing and will be posted on Council's website later. Council's Facebook group include our Pacific Bushfire Recovery plus notice boards as an additional way of keeping everyone informed. Answers, questions and answer fact sheets will be developed, and from these we will all discuss them tonight and will be distributed to our members. Before I introduce our guest speakers, I'd like to invite Snowy Monero Regional CEO, Peter Bascom, to say a few words. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter, and welcome everybody. And I'd like to thank all our panellists for joining us. This is a new experience for us, I guess, and for many of us at least, in attempting to run this webinar. But it does have the advantage that we'll end up with a recording that we can then post on our various Facebook pages, websites and so forth. And other people will be able to access it over time. The Mayor has outlined the intent of the meeting, but to give a bit of background, following, or in fact, while the bushfires were still active, Council appointed a local recovery coordinator, Andrea Forsyth, and two assistant local recovery officers. They were busy running community meetings, face-to-face meetings and so forth when the pandemic was declared. So we've been doing remote discussions, phone discussions and so forth over that period of time. And of course, we've been running the Mayoral Fund and distributing the results of those applications recently. And the recovery effort will continue for some considerable time. And for the time being, obviously, we'll be operating remotely pending a relaxation of the restrictions. I'd now like to introduce our local recovery coordinator, Andrea Forsyth.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. And like Peter, thank you very much to the panellists for making yourselves available for this information seminar. I'd also like to welcome our assistant recovery officers who I know are here with us as participants. We have Robin Guthrie and we also have Tracy Crompton. As Peter alluded to, it's a very different environment for us now. We'd love to be out there meeting you all face to face, but we all need to make sure we keep our community as safe as possible. So we are exploring many different ways to reach you all and to give you the message. So please do remember that there is a recovery team at the council. If anyone has concerns, please make sure you get in contact with us. We're the right people to point you in the right direction, to answer your questions, and we're really here just to have a chat and help you through it. We will be making our contact details available again, but just a gentle reminder that we're here for you. So thank you very much, everyone, and I'll now hand back to Peter Beard.
Well, now I'd like to introduce our guest speakers who are the panellists for this forum. Introduction, we have Brett, the Council's Biosecurity Manager. Just wave your hand, Brett, there, right, thank you. We've got Anthony, the New South Wales National Park and Wildlife Service. You there? Yes, thank you. We got Richard, the Forestry Corporation of New South Wales. Here, over there, thank you. And Luke Pope, a local land service. You there, Luke? Thank you. Now I'd like to hand over to our guest speakers in the order, following order: Brett, Anthony, Richard, and Luke. And remind guests questions can be taken at the end of their presentations. I'll start with, as I said before, Brett. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, and yeah, good evening, everybody. As Peter said, my name's Brett Jones. I manage the biosecurity or weeds management program throughout council. Within the parameters of the Biosecurity Act and the State Weeds Action Program, and we try and align those objectives with the community's expectations. Back during the fires, I was heavily involved myself, I suppose, sitting in the fire trucks, particularly in the Newmalla, Badger and County areas. And I guess given my rural background and the knowledge of the region's agricultural needs, I was asked to chair the council's agricultural subcommittee, recovery subcommittee, which was established a couple of months ago. As you appreciate, one of our major issues we've been dealing with in the agricultural sector is fence repair, replacement and containment of stock. Hence my involvement in the webinar tonight. The agricultural subcommittee, of which I'm a part, we focus entirely on issues within the farm gate. There's other subcommittees that deal with issues relating to health and wellbeing, communications, infrastructure and other aspects of the bushfire recovery. So the aim of the council's agricultural subcommittee is to provide that specialist advice to council's overall recovery committee, and to do our best to find solutions and try and fill those gaps in current funding and other support programs. So the subcommittee is represented by New South Wales Farmers, Local Land Services, Rural Financial Counselling Service, Rural Fire Service, Blaze Aid Bredbow and Blaze Aid Bombala, the Salvation Army and council ourselves. So essentially, I suppose, as a subcommittee, we report to and escalate issues to council's overall recovery committee and to there's a South East Regional Recovery Committee, which ultimately feeds up into the state level. So that's my involvement here tonight. Please throw questions at us and we'll help you out however we can. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brett. Yeah, Anthony Evans is my name. Area Manager with National Parks, based here in Jindabyne. But my team, I guess, has responsibility for pests and weeds, visitors, trails, and also fire throughout the central part of Cozzy, but also reserves up in the northern Monero, Tindra, Yananumbian, through to the Brindabellas on the other side of the ACT and sort of further north to around Crookwell, Abercrombie River. During the fires, yeah, I was involved mostly in the IMT, both in Queanbeyan back in November, late November, December, and then moved south to Coomera in January, February. So yeah, I guess acknowledge it's been a really tough time for people over the last 6 months, and yeah, we've still got a way to go to get through that. As has been explained, we're here tonight to talk about fences. But yeah, I'm happy to take other questions if time permits, or I can take them on notice later. But yeah, just happy to be a part of the panel tonight. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say.
Richard, thanks, Richard.
Richard, you're muted.
Richard.
Hi, my name is Richard Rienstra. I'm the Forestry Corporation Senior Land Administrator. Warhape on the north coast, and I deal mainly with hardwood forests across the state, hardwood issues, but for the purpose of this project, I'm also looking after the softwood part of the state as well. The role is managing the clearing and construction with state forest boundaries to do outside even this project. I also have a seat on the government's strategic group that's looking at the way this project's been set up and the way it's being run. Had a key role in that because Forestry Corp's got 22,000 odd kilometres of boundary fence with neighbours, and there's a massive job out there we're looking at. I currently have a massive staff of 1.5 people. I look after all of these issues on the east coast and tablelands of New South Wales. I do a lot of travelling. In addition to, just so that you understand where I'm coming from, in addition to boundary fences, I look after 23 quarries we have commercial interest with. We've got little 5,000 apiary permits, forest permits and crown leases. I think there's about 150 a day. I look after our mining exploration licences and mining leases. Access through private property through state forests, that's either via what we call practical access authority or a right of carriageway, and also compulsory acquisition of state forests, which is usually mainly by local government areas or RMS or Transport in New South Wales. And in addition to that, like Anthony, I spent a lot of time firefighting, and I think I've spent 3 days between the end of November to halfway through February doing my normal job, the rest of the time firefighting. Happy to take any questions on other issues as well. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening. Luke Pope is my name. I'm with Local Land Services, based here in the Cooma, but responsible and working across the whole Monero. First off, I'd like to acknowledge the Ngarigo country that we're on and pay respects to elders past and present. For tonight, look, there'll be a few links and things. I guess really ask the people watching to keep an eye in the chat. And if you haven't already, there's a couple of buttons down the bottom. If you could just push the chat one, that will open up the chat, and you'll see lots of really useful links and information appearing in there. And I'll just pop one in there now. But you'll see that there's already quite a few important links in there. So the big program I'm going to talk about tonight is a relatively new one called Supporting Our Neighbours. The Supporting Our Neighbours program is a whole of New South Wales government program, and essentially there's over $200 million that have been put into replacing fences where there's a boundary fence that's been burnt between private land and some sort of public estate. So those public lands include national parks, Forestry Corporation, New South Wales, travelling stock reserves, Crown lands, roads and maritime services roads, and local council roads. And I guess for those that might or might not be aware of it, there's also a new little thing just in the last couple of days that's been added where if there were existing riparian fences onto Crown-owned or Crown-managed rivers, and they were burnt, they're now included as well. So that's been another little addition in the last few days. And for this program, for this $200 million, it does work exclusively with those boundary fences between public and private land. I too want to, really just acknowledge the gravity of what you have all been through and what the community's been through this year. It's been an incredibly tough one, and for many of you, that stress has been made worse by the loss of stock, homes, properties, and some of you, family and friends. So it's been a very traumatic year, and I guess there's a lot of different programs and all the stuff that Andrea and her team has talked to you about and will talk about in future webinars. Add lots of different layers of assistance to help people as much as we can. As I mentioned earlier, Local Land Services is actually taking a lead on this Supporting Our Neighbours program. And we are in that, we are dealing with and representing all of those different public agencies, so that you can just work with us. And it's one of our lessons roles is to go and do that negotiation and standard type work and fact checking background with all those agencies for you. So really ask you, and I'll be giving a really big plug to this program and to engaging with Local Land Services as a conduit to all but whichever neighbour you happen to have. In New South Wales, over this past summer, there was around 40,000 kilometres of boundary fences lost between private land and public land. So it's no small thing. One of the really important things is that the money that's been allocated is enough to cover all of those fences. So this is not like your normal funding program where it might be competitive and it might be first in before it goes. There is enough for all of them, which is a lot of relief. I'm not saying necessarily drag your feet and take your time, but there is enough for all those fences to be funded. When we come to funding the program, what we're doing is paying out cash, $5,000 per kilometre of fence lost, and that funding goes directly into you to then erect the fence in your own manner. One of the questions that people are going to ask is, I've already put up my fence. Have I lost the opportunity? And the answer is no. So one of the really important things to know about this program is it's not actually funded through the bushfire recovery. It's funded through the COVID stimulus package. So what we're really hoping is that by giving out this money and paying and including the people that have already put in fences, back paying those, what we're trying to do is have a bit of a cash stimulus into rural economies that will help keep employment up and keep cash moving around the communities. So for those that have already put up the fences, please apply. You will still be just as eligible as those that have not yet applied. I guess one of the really important things, and the most important thing from tonight is if you haven't already, please register. Those details are in the chat box, but to go through them quickly, there is on our website at the which is www.lls.nsw.gov.au/fencing, or the phone number is 1300 778 080. I'll probably repeat them a few times. Once you register, what happens is someone from Local Land Services will get in touch with you personally, either by phone or email, and make contact to get an idea about what your needs are and total distances. For those that might have already been through that process, hopefully we understand that everyone has been contacted, but if you haven't, please just give that phone number a call again and we'll make sure someone gets back to you, in touch with you. Once you're in the system, it can take a little bit of time, and I guess part of the reason for that is that Local Land Services is doing all that negotiation on your behalf with the agency. So sometimes there's a little bit of back and forward, but we are taking care of that, and for that reason it can be a little bit slow. Plus the good news is at the moment we've got lots of people registered, which is keeping our staff really busy. Once you do that, there is a contract that you'll need to sign to receive those funds, and you should have those funds in your bank within 20 working days of that contract being returned, signed. So again, we just want to get that money out as quick as possible. In fact, of that $200 million across the state, we're hoping to get 90 million out of it this financial year, which is a bit of a stretch, but we want to get it out flowing ASAP. the deadlines are important. So this is not just for this financial year. I hesitate giving the date, but the deadline to have registered for this program is 30th of June 2021, so over a year away. Obviously, we would rather give you that money sooner rather than later, so I really encourage you not to drag it out and to apply as soon as possible. But you have got a bit of time, and so don't, at the same time, we don't want you feeling rushed into it, because there is time. And there is an expectation that the fence itself will have been constructed before the 31st of December 2021. So again, we've got over a year and a half to actually get the fences installed. So we hope that time frame gives people time to not feel rushed, but if you're ready to go, we're ready to help you now. A couple of other little things, I guess, about it, just to give you some context. There's been over 800 now applications received in the southeast area, but only around 60 of them are on the Monero. So really encouraging people online tonight, people watching later, for yourself to register, but also talk to your neighbours, talk to other people you might know that might be affected, because we don't want there to be anyone to miss out. We want everyone to receive some of this funding to assist with those boundary fences. Look, also, I guess I just want to acknowledge that there are other fences out there, including all the internal fences on a property and private property neighbouring fences. And this program does not assist those. So there is a lot of other assistance available, and a whole bunch of those links have been going through the chat, but really encourage you, wherever possible, to engage with the Snowy Monero recovery team, through Andrea Forsyth and her team. But the other one is to come in touch with the Rural Assistance Authority or the Rural Financial Counselling Service, both which can point you in lots of directions. And then Service New South Wales, because acknowledging that not everyone that was fire affected is a primary producer, so yeah, quite aware of that, and there are lots of pathways, but your first port of call and your best conduit will be the Snowy Monero Recovery Committee. Okay, sorry, recovery team. Look, I could go on for a long time, but given that we're trying to give out some generalist information and really trying to encourage you to then come back and engage with us directly, I'll give you those details once more. The website is www.lls.nsw.gov.au/fencing, or the phone number is 1300 778 080. And I thank you for your attention tonight.
Right.
No, you can go ahead now.
Thank you, Brett, Anthony, Richard, and Luke, and thank you, Luke, for the acknowledgement of country. That's something I forgot about, and I apologise for. We're now ready to take questions from our audience. I'll start with the questions that, if we have any, in the question and answer box online, and then we'll answer those on the chat room. Remind people, please, to be patient. If the technology breaks down, just hang in there and we'll fix it as soon as we can. Andrea will be taking notes from the questions, and I'll ask Andrea to have a look and see what questions we have, and refer them to the presenters that we've just listened to. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Peter. So this is a question for you, Luke. It's come in with winter almost upon us and the cold conditions. Will this affect the program at all?
No. The cold conditions won't affect us at all. It may affect some people's willingness to be out fencing, but that's okay. You've got as much time as you need, like I said earlier, until the 31st of December 2021 to make sure that fence is done.
Thank you, Luke. I think you're going to be popular tonight. It's another question for you. Will our local landholders get to deal with a local LLS staff member when they register?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Ali. Look, when people ring up that 1300 number that I've given out, they could be they'll be speaking to someone anywhere in the state, because this is a statewide project. But that's just the first step. That's just to register. When it comes to negotiating the contract, negotiating what the fence looks like, yeah, absolutely. That's a local. We've got 3 people on the Monero in local land services working on it, and I think a total of 15 in the southeast. So absolutely, you'll be dealing with a local.
Thank you, Luke. And guess what? Another question for you. This is in relation to Blaze Aid. The question is, how do you work in with Blaze Aid in this situation?
Yeah, another really good question, and really want to acknowledge the volunteers in Blaze Aid doing a fantastic job. Look, this doesn't affect that, so more than happy for you to be getting volunteer assistance from Blaze Aid, as well as the financial contribution from this Supporting Our Neighbours program. And that includes those landholders that may have already had a fence put up with the assistance of Blaze Aid, still eligible. We want to get that cash flowing.
Thank you, Luke. This is probably a question for me, so I'll ask myself the question. Can the recovery team help? Yes, we can. Certainly, if people want to talk to us about the program, we're very much in contact with Luke and local land services, so please feel free to talk to local recovery officers. We can provide you with assistance and details, and we can also make a referral for you. So it's now for me to ask, are there more questions that people would like to raise at this particular point? I suspect the panellists have done a fantastic job in giving everyone sufficient information. No doubt there may be questions that people think of later. That's perfectly fine. Please remember, you can contact local land services as per the details Luke has provided, or the recovery team. Please don't hesitate to call us. So with that, I might actually hand back to Peter Beer.
Sorry, can I just interrupt just for one moment? I apologise for that. There is another question that just hit our desks, and that is Blaze Aid still operating? Yes, they are. They have a team still based at Bredbow and another one in Bombala.
Thank you, Luke.
Is that the last of the questions, Andrea?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, once again, I would like to thank our guests for attending, and thank you for making the effort. Don't forget, you can call our recovery team, which is 1300 345, 1300 345. And council is here to help as much as we possibly can. If there's no further questions or late questions, I will at this stage close this meeting. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, everyone.